Why are these Australian trees bleeding red? Imagine walking through an Australian forest surrounded by towering eucalyptus, the sound of birds in the distance, and then you see it. A tree, its bark torn and from the wound. Bright red liquid oozing down the trunk like something straight out of a horror movie. Nope, you're not in a vampire film. You've just met one of Australia's most fascinating and maybe a little creepy natural wonders. The bleeding trees. In today's video we're going to dive deep into why certain Australian trees bleed red, what that red liquid actually is, the types of trees that do this, how people have used it for centuries, and why this strange natural defense is one of the coolest survival tricks in the plant kingdom. By the end of this video you'll never look at an Aussie tree the same way again. If you love exploring Australia's weird and wonderful side, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more fascinating nature stories. And drop a comment if you've ever seen one of these trees in person or have a theory about them. We love to hear your thoughts. The mystery of the red sap. The first time people see this phenomenon, their reaction is usually the same. Wait. Is that blood? And the answer is, no, trees don't have blood. But they do have something that can look a lot like it, a sticky red substance called Kino. Kino is a plant gum rich in tannins, and when certain trees are injured by an axe, an animal, or even insect damage, they release this gum as a kind of first aid. It's thick, it's often a bright crimson, and as it drips down the bark, it looks eerily similar to fresh blood. This is not just for show. Kino is part of the tree's defense system. It helps seal wounds, keeps out bacteria and fungi, and even repels some insects. Think of it as the tree's natural version of a bandage. Just way more dramatic. The main culprit: bloodwood trees. If we're naming the most famous red bleeders in Australia, it's definitely the bloodwood trees. There are several types, but two of the most common are red bloodwood, found along the eastern coastline. Desert bloodwood, common in central and northern Australia. These trees are part of the eucalyptus family, but they stand out because of their thick, rough bark and their habit of producing copious amounts of that red Kino when injured. When the bark is damaged, the Kino doesn't just trickle out, sometimes it gushes in slow motion, forming glossy crimson streaks down the trunk. As it dries, it hardens into dark, glassy lumps that almost look like pieces of red amber. Not just bloodwood, other Aussie red bleeders. While bloodwoods are the stars of the show, they're not the only ones. Sydney red gum produces reddish sap, especially when young. Red ironbark sometimes releases a reddish resin from wounds. Other Corymbia species, many produce Kino, though not always as vividly red. If you're walking through an Australian forest and see a red ooze, chances are you found one of these. How it works. The science behind the bleeding. Here's what's happening under the bark. When the tree's outer layers are damaged, it triggers a rapid chemical reaction. The Kino forms from compounds in the sap that oxidize when exposed to air. The high tannin content makes it deep red. The resin flows out to cover the wound, and as it dries, it forms a protective seal. It's like the tree saying, "No infection is getting in here." Interestingly, the flow of Kino can continue for weeks after the initial injury. Sometimes even a small nick can produce a surprisingly dramatic bleed. Uses of Kino, from medicine to glue. This isn't just some random plant goo. For thousands of years, Australia's First Nations peoples have known the value of Kino. They used it as an antiseptic applied to cuts and sores to prevent infection. A mouthwash, diluted Kino could help with gum disease. A dye, its rich color was used in artwork and decoration. A glue, when heated and mixed with other materials, Kino made a strong adhesive. Even early European settlers learned to collect Kino for tanning leather and as a medicinal astringent. Survival fact: Kino can be life-saving. Here's a wild survival tip. Kino is actually edible in small amounts. It tastes incredibly bitter, like chewing on a tea bag, but in emergencies, it was used as a source of tannins and mild medicinal relief. Of course, I'm not suggesting you go around licking tree wounds. That's a fast way to end up with a mouthful of dirt and possibly an ant or two. But it's fascinating to know how many ways this strange substance can be useful. Why it's important for the tree. This isn't just a cool party trick from nature. Kino is absolutely vital for the tree's survival. Without it, wounds would stay open, allowing fungi, bacteria, and insects to enter. That could eventually lead to decay and death of the tree. It's also possible that Kino's bright red color serves as a warning to animals. a don't mess with me sign in the plant world. Some researchers believe that predators may instinctively avoid bright red fluids, associating them with danger or poison. Where you'll spot them. If you want to see these bleeding trees for yourself, here are a few hotspots. Eastern Australia, coastal forests from Queensland down to New South Wales are great for red bloodwoods. Northern Territory and WA, desert bloodwoods thrive in drier inland areas. Sydney region, look for Angophora costata along bushwalking trails. The best time to see Kino oozing is often after storms, when wind and debris can damage bark, or in dry seasons when insect activity is higher. Why this matters to you? Even if you're not a botanist or a nature geek, this phenomenon is worth knowing about because 1. It's part of Australia's unique biodiversity. You won't find these exact trees anywhere else in the world. 2. It's a window into indigenous knowledge. Understanding Kino connects you to thousands of years of cultural heritage. 3. It's a reminder of nature's ingenuity. Trees can't run away from threats, so they've evolved chemical warfare instead. Plus, it makes for a pretty amazing photo to post on social media. Just be ready for comments asking, why is that tree bleeding? Final thoughts. Australia has no shortage of strange and beautiful sights, but the bleeding trees are one of the most dramatic examples of how unique this land really is. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Australia's natural oddities, hit the subscribe button, give this video a like, and share it with a friend who loves nature or weird science facts. And please, drop a comment below if you've ever seen a bleeding tree in person. I'd love to hear your story.